Really Charlie Podcast, a weekly show with the one person to make you say, "Really, Charlie?" on the Really Charlie Podcast. Tune in. It's the Really Charlie Podcast, making memories last. Your time, my time, we all shine on the Really Charlie Podcast.
It's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bumping through your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bumping through your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass.
Hey, welcome to the Really Charlie Podcast. My name is Charlie Perry, and I'm here with my guest, Phil Young from AchieveGreatness88.org. We are here to talk about a few things, but one of the things I want to really just welcome him here because we tried to do this before on take one, and take one, we only got pieces of it. So we're doing take two, and this is going to be a truly very sincere and a really sincere and genuine podcast. So I cannot wait to get started. What's up, Phil?
What's up, Charlie Perry? How's it going, man?
Nice to hear you. Nice to see you. God bless you. And I'm glad we're doing this again, man. It's crazy. Hey, and I don't think I ever told you about that picture in the background that you have. I had one very similar to that, a little bit smaller, but it was the same thing. One of my favorite pictures of all time.
Yeah, I've always liked those too, man.
Yeah. So the craziest thing is that I broke it during a move, and there was no way to salvage it because I had broken the inside of it, and so until this day I still haven't seen one, but it was great. All right, man. How was your day? Hopefully the shoveling was at a minimum, you know.
Nah, I was shoveling 3-4 different times today. It was a long day and then just a lot going on. So, you know how the last podcast, there was some technical difficulties, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I truly believe sometimes when blessings are on the horizon, the enemy comes to procure a lot of curses upon us. And so today has been a hellacious day, all the way up until the minute before I just signed on. So I'm looking forward to sharing the story. Hopefully, I was in meetings today because I work from home and my internet kept going in and out. So hopefully all that's clear and we can get this thing going.
Of course, yes. We come on board and we talked over the past few months about getting you on board and talking about different things that you are going through, your whole family's going through the loss of your son Andrew, the loss came about by marijuana that was laced with fentanyl, very, very dangerous drug. And I want to say, even though you guys had this heartbreaking situation in your family, including mine, he was my friend. It triggered me to learn and listen about this dangerous drug when I probably wouldn't have listened unless I experienced another loss, or and at least it's wakened me. It's got me wide awake of things and the dangers of fentanyl, and opioids. So I'm glad that you're here to talk about it, and I'm always here to support you no matter what.
And I appreciate you tremendously, man. You're a good man, a good friend.
Back at you.
I thank you for having, given this platform to Paula and myself to be able to. It's almost like a mini version of counseling, right? So, I had started the last podcast kind of talking about basketball, Achieve Greatness. So Achieve Greatness was actually started by Andrew as part of his delving into coaching basketball and teaching basketball. And a few years ago, he started designing logos. He came up with the idea, and lo and behold, he ended up going forward and starting his own company, from the ground. It wasn't a whole lot going on, but the few people that he did have as clients really appreciated what he did, and so on and so forth. And most people, if any of my family or friends are listening to this podcast, they know that there was a couple of years there that Andrew and I didn't talk. We had a tumultuous relationship, and before he passed, we had an opportunity to talk, thanks to my oldest son, Brandon, who you know very well because he's married to your niece.
Yes. That was first round draft pick, no trade clause. I'm keeping him.
And you can't change his last name to Perry, damn it.
Weird man.
But, he actually talked some sense into me, and because I didn't want to talk to Andrew, he had reached out, and then he reminded me of some words that I had said when all the kids were younger. Basically, that if you ever had an issue, if you come to me and you want to talk, then I'll be receptive to what you have to say. But in kind, you have to be receptive to what I have to say, and hopefully we can mend some fences and patch some differences that we had. And so we were able to do that. After I talked to Brandon one day, I called up Andrew, and we spoke for about 3.5 hours, aired everything out. He apologized for things he had done. I apologized for things that I had done. And what a lot of people don't realize is that, I came from a family that was together. So it was just me, my mom, and dad. And I grew up in some really rough areas down in Washington, D.C., and then Maryland. And so basketball became kind of my getaway sports. Football was actually my first passion. But back in the day, they had these weight clauses, and I was too heavy. And then when I started playing basketball, I lost all this weight. So I was like, I don't want to really play football. So basketball became a thing, man. And it was my getaway. I'd go and literally, and my father could attest to this, I would wear out a pair of sneakers a day. That's how much I played, especially in the summertime. I was always on the courts. So you end up making a lot of friends and some enemies at the same time, but it's all the spirit of competition. And so that's how, when Paula and I got together, she had 3. Andrew was her oldest biological. So she had Andrew, Adam, and the youngest is Frankie. And then it was my oldest son, Brandon, and my biological younger son, Jordan. And so whenever the kids got together, and everybody was in the house and the testosterone got too high, I was like, all right, Paula's going crazy. Let's go. So we go to the court, and it was our way of counseling each other. So I think what happened over the years is that I coached, a couple of my kids coached basketball. I coached different sports. And Andrew was kind of mimicking a lot of the things that I did. I collect sports memorabilia. Well, when he started talking again, I found out he collected sports memorabilia.
Very nice.
So we found, through our ability to communicate and eliminate those other issues. I'm not saying everything got fixed on one phone call, right? Yeah. But it set the foundation up for what I think we both thought would be a promising future. And then all of a sudden, on March 8th, 2022, Paula calls me up at work, and I don't think I've talked about this day before, so I'm going to be real raw. Paula calls me up at work, and she goes, hey, because we have Ring cameras, and she goes, hey, why are the police in front of our house? So immediately, Frankie lives with us, so some of Frankie's history. I'm sitting there going, what the hell did he do? So I called the house, and I actually called Frankie's phone. He picked up, and he's like, hey, Dad, there's a detective here that wants to talk to you. And it still wasn't resonating with me. Like,
True.
why would a detective want to talk to me? Why is he even there? And so he got on the phone and he told me that that Andrew had passed, and that was the beginning of a transformation for myself, my wife, and our family. Because at that moment in time, it was like a atomic bomb dropped, and it blew all of us into pieces, especially Paula. I mean, you've had Paula on the show. She's talked about what she's going through. She still goes through it. Whatever you see from my wife, it's all I don't want to swear, but it's all a masquerade, dude. It is hiding all the pain and the torture that she goes through every day. And I see it, right?
Yes.
And so when I talked to the detective, he gave me a number that I called, and it was Andrew was living in Annapolis, Maryland. And so the number he gave me was for the detective who was in Annapolis, and they were still on the scene. And so she told me, that Andrew had passed. There was no sign. And whenever I hear this, I already know. I hear it in the news all the time. No signs of trauma or anything like that. Immediately, I know it's something drug related, right? And typically now it's fentanyl related. And so she said, yeah, there's no sign of trauma. She was actually standing right over his body. And meanwhile, Paula is calling me up. She knows something's wrong. So I have to get off the phone. I go and talk to my boss. I'm devastated. I'm crying. And no matter how mad you get at somebody or how angry you might be, from day one, those children were my children, Andrew, Adam, and Frankie. And so I just lost somebody. I'm a bad shepherd because I lost one of my flock, right? I lost one of my sheep. And now I have to talk to my wife and tell her that the child that she carried around for 9 months and had nurtured through life, even when Andrew and I were having our issues, Paula and Andrew had their issues too, but she would always talk to him because I'm old school. I was like, I'm not going to talk unless we're going to, I get pissed off and hold my principles, but it was always because I wanted to see him, as any parent truly does. They want to see their children improve and do better than what they've done. And so now I had to tell Paula, and she's pressing me on the phone. And I said, just leave your job, meet me at home.
Yeah.
And she's like, you need to tell me right now. And I told her, and I could feel the shrapnel from that one right through the phone, dude. And she's like, that's impossible. I just talked to him last night, which was true because they were texting each other the night before. And Andrew had gotten into an argument with his girlfriend, and she booted him out. So he was under a gazebo, smoking his weed. And then he said, Mom, my phone's dying. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And tomorrow never came. Somebody saw, they were walking through the apartments he lived in. Some lady was walking a dog, or a man, I can't remember. I think it was a woman. And she saw a body, and she called 911. And when they got on scene, he was already gone. So now I'm like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? Because all I can see is, in my eyes, failure. So I failed Drew. I failed all my kids to a certain degree, and I especially failed my wife. And you were in law enforcement for years, Charlie. So, you have men naturally, and most men have this ability or this innate sense that they are protectors, right? So they want to protect the people that they love. And now, even though he was 500 miles away, there wasn't a damn thing I could do. And so now Paula's shattered. And now I have to make the calls to the morgue. We had to go. I kept Paula out of this. I had to go make funeral arrangements, and me, Adam, Frankie, and then Brandon ended up coming. We had to go to the funeral home,
Man.
and pick out a casket. So we're looking at the caskets to figure out which one we think Andrew would like. It was so macabre. It's so surreal that I honestly wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. Doesn't matter what my issues are or were with Drew. At the end of the day, he knew I loved him and I knew he loved me. And nothing worse than going to the store to buy an outfit going to be buried in the ground. There's nothing worse than picking out a casket, no matter what the age of your child is. My time, my effort, my love was invested, just like it is with all of my children. And to say that blew us into another stratosphere, the other kids as well, would be an understatement. Everybody's dealing with it in their own way, and I will not judge them, but I will always be there if any of them are listening and they want to talk. I won't turn you away, that's for sure.
Yes.
So I had to pivot. I learned how to deal with things that I've been raised to not deal with, right? So I went about it in a business sense. Okay, I got to do this. I got to make the arrangements. We got to talk to the funeral home. Now we have to talk to the park because we have to get a permit. I mean, there's all these things that go on that you have to F and deal with, whether you want to or not.
Exactly.
So ultimately, I knew that before Andrew's funeral, the day of his funeral, Paula wanted to see him. And so the funeral home, they dressed him up. A friend of mine who cuts my hair, she's been cutting it for 30 years. She went and did Andrew's hair for me and shaved him. And as soon as Paula saw him, she just was in the casket.
Yeah.
It is it's a vision that you can never erase.
So true.
And so ever since then, you know, after that day, after he was buried, and it was a lot of people came to Andrew's funeral, even people we hadn't seen in some time, which was it was nice to see people pay their respects. But the way I wanted to bring my son home was, you know, he fly back, I pick him up from the airport, we come down to my bar and we have a beer and a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I had to do a shot in his memory, right?
Wow.
And I don't even drink anymore. There's just so many things that have changed about me. And now I have all these things to carry. And one of the biggest things to carry was Paula. Her grief pushed people away. Her grief scared people away.
Mm.
Her grief made people who were supposedly her friends walk away and not reach back out. Because, like I told her, your grief is so tremendous that most people aren't going to be able to deal with it because they don't understand. And in order for someone to understand, they have to, in their mind, kill their child.
Mm.
And so there are people, though, who have shown compassion, which is something that everybody has the ability to do, but not everybody makes the choice to do it. For instance, you have shown compassion. Your brother, whenever I see him, he shows compassion. Your mom, compassion. So there are people out there that aren't our day-to-day friends or our best friends, but they've shown a strong care and compassion, which means a lot to us. And as we went through this horrific journey, We had people telling us some of the dumbest shit you can ever say to somebody who loves somebody, like, well, he's in a better place. Look, if you don't know what to say, the best thing is just to grab the person, hug them, tell you love them.
True.
Just don't say shit like that, because, or Andrew wouldn't want you to be this way, or Andrew, it's like those things only show that you really don't have much compassion, because how would you like it if the roles were reversed and somebody was telling you that? And again, it's hard for people to be able to understand that, because you'd have to do the unimaginable, right? And so, it was one day when Paula was crying. She had gone upstairs. So when Andrew's belongings came in, and like I said, I've never talked about this, so I'm talking about it so people can understand that whole process and how horrific it was. Because now my friend, a good friend of mine at the time, went down and got Andrew's belongings for me and Paula, and then he got Andrew's cat, Jax.
Mm-hmm.
And so Jax is the only remnant or connection left between Andrew and us.
Wow.
And so when my friend came up and he bought Andrew's clothes, I put everything downstairs in the basement. I have a finished basement, as you know. And I just took all his clothes out, all of his belongings, and I just went through it. And while I'm downstairs crying, Paula's up in the bedroom. I mean, crying like I have never heard a person cry before in my life. Like, I have never heard this. She cried so much, and it was so devastating. It made my soul tremble. And I've told people this. My soul trembled from the cry she had. And now she wants to go to the cemetery every day. And I'm not a cemetery person. But eventually I had to pivot all those ways that I was raised, because if I didn't, I know we would not have been together.
Yeah, true.
So most people don't survive this. And so we decided that a good way to honor Andrew's legacy and his love for basketball was to take his company, Achieve Greatness, and turn it into a nonprofit. And so with the help of a couple of former board members who did an excellent job in helping us out, they helped us file the paperwork, and we got our certification last April. So it was a little over a year after Andrew had passed, and that process took a few months to get into place. But, the basis of what we're trying to do is we want to make an impression to children between the ages of 5 and 18, but it really doesn't matter the age. We're trying to get out and talk to people about the dangers of fentanyl and, using sports as an avenue. So primarily basketball is the focus, and that's why we have a few members. A board member, Rob Delalue, he's helping with basketball. Marcus Hauptman's one of our advisors. Mike Daniel from Martha's Vineyard, another advisor. All these guys have basketball in their blood. And we also partnered with BBA, Steve Burgo. And we're going to be having the first annual tournament in Andrew's name at BBA on August the 17th. It's a Saturday. And so we're pretty excited about that. And it's a way to turn tragedy into purpose. That's been our whole mindset. And we want to really truly make an impact on our community. Paula has made so many contacts. She's received some awards that are hanging up behind me here for her work. And we've received them too for our work as a nonprofit in a short period of time. We've made an impact. And I can tell you that, when people, like we're having a dinner, our first fundraising dinner, March 9th at the Century House in Fairhaven. If you go on our website, you can get tickets. And the tickets pay for the food, the entertainment, and then the money that we receive is just going to go back into what we're trying to do. We have not made any money on this. In fact, I've probably spent about 15 to 20 grand out of my pocket just to keep things moving and going. So when we tell people, hey, look, you know, we need to get this going. We really wanted to be out there and get some good people. We have great entertainment coming for this venue, and it'll hopefully spark something in people, because we feel that not enough is being talked about, right? And at one point, people actually challenged us about fentanyl being in marijuana. Well, how did that happen? How does that go? And what did he do? And I'm like, okay. So it was actually a New Bedford police officer who was on site at the cemetery one night that Paula and I went through. And of course, they were doing all kinds of weird stuff in Freetown. So now everybody's on high alert with the cemeteries, you know, like desecrate graves. And so we went and started speaking to the guy, and he says, Phil, it's definitely real, because we've seen it, and we know that they take the fentanyl and they dilute it and they spray it on the plant. So they either spray it on the plant while it's growing, or they spray it on the dried leaves. And so as you smoke it, and so everybody goes, well, why would they do that? Why would they do it? Well, fentanyl is cheap. It's cheap to get. It's cheap to make. It's coming in the country in droves. And if you go in right now and do a search on how to make it, you'll get over 11 million hits in 28 seconds.
Wow.
So it's out there. They're giving it to our kids. When someone puts it in the form of a pill, like a Skittle or a piece of candy, that's not for an adult. That's not for an adult. They're attacking our children, whomever it is, and that's why it's up to us as parents to make sure we protect them. I don't care if it's the most uncomfortable conversation you have it, because you know what's more uncomfortable? Burying your kid. When you have to bury your child, and then you sit there with regret, and you're sitting there going, why the hell did I just say this? Why was I trying to? You're not protecting them by not informing them. You're actually creating a situation where it becomes more dangerous, because there are people out there that don't give a shit. They don't care about life. And I'll tell you something, it's a cheap cutting agent. So not only are they putting it into things where they give it to you and you don't even know and you die, which is one, murder, and it's two, it's a poisoning, right? If I give you something you don't know, you can't sit there and say it's an overdose. The 1-year-old who died in New York City on a gym mat because it had fentanyl in it, it's not an overdose, right?
True.
That child was poisoned because of the people who were dealing it out of that daycare, a daycare.
Yeah.
Okay. So don't come and tell me, well, that's impossible. There's dis or misinformation on the internet right now saying that when fentanyl burns, that it no problem, this, that, and it's bullshit. All right. There's people smoking fentanyl just like they smoke crack.
Yes.
So if there's no danger to you, then why are they getting high? Right? How are they getting high if they're smoking pure fentanyl? They're burning this shit, dude. It's crazy. And so now there was a article that just came out, and I think we have it on our website now, that when people there's a psychological review that's some medical association that's very well known, and they did a study on it. So they were talking about the fentanyl and the marijuana. So you have marijuana with the THC, right? And so it kind of settles you down. Now you have the fentanyl, and they're also mixing xylazine, which is a tranq. You've heard of that on the street. So it's a horse tranquilizer. So these sedate you, they attack your respiratory system, and you're done. You're done. You go to sleep, nice and easy, nice and slow. And you never know what the hell hits you. So it is a real thing. They are doing it. There's been busts all across the U.S. now where they're finding that they're running labs, and they're finding that the weed is laced with fentanyl. And so the big question came to us when we were having to justify our child's death. Well, why would somebody do that? Well, it's a synthetic opioid, and it's highly addictive. And it's 50 times stronger than morphine, right?
Yep.
And I tell you too, not only is it at the Texas border, but I just had a guy do a presentation. This is for the gentleman that just, I think his name was Brandon.
Brandon
coming in droves through the Arizona border.
Mm-hmm.
There is a massive uptick where fentanyl is coming in through Arizona. So I'm sure it's going in through other places, but the stats that I just saw, massive increases in Arizona. So you have a couple of issues happening, right? So China makes the product. What's China's purpose here, right? So why would China give a crap about us? Well, because, well, we're kind of a superpower and they're kind of a superpower. And what better way to take care of us than to wipe out a generation?
True.
So it's, you know, that when you have the age group of 12 to 18, fentanyl is the number one killer for kids 12 to 18. Number one. It's not cancer. It's not car accidents. It's fentanyl.
Mm-hmm.
Some people get a pill. DEA goes, they have their campaign, one pill can kill. True. 7 out of every 10 pills on the street laced with fentanyl.
True.
You just don't know which one you're going to get that might be the last pill you take. And they mimic it in all different types of forms. It's highly addictive. So if I cut it, then I can get repeat customers if they don't die. And if they die, well, guess what? I have this.
Yeah.
Right? It's not the street dealers when we were kids, man. They deal now with the internet. Yep. They use social media. They have icons. So they have different emojis that they use that we identify. If you go on our website, you're going to see there's a section on that. And we get them before the DEA gets them. In fact, we partner with the DEA, and they tell us, well, where'd you get that from? Well, there's a lady that we had in Texas that's on our board, Jen, and she sent it to us because her kid went to Texas A&M. First day on campus, he gets a text message out of nowhere. It's an emoji. And basically it tells him, here are all the different emojis. And if you want this drug, this is what you text back to me. And then they Uber it, they lift it. Dude, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So the idea is they don't care about life. You know, so we're pushing, you know, we have basketball where we want to teach young kids and their parents are welcome to come. We don't want to talk to the children without the parents or the guardian, right? We want everybody to get that message because I had the most uncomfortable conversation. I got 4 grandkids, right? I can't have it with the 3-year-old because he's too young. The 5-year-old, but the 12-year-old and the 16-year-old, I had to have that conversation. When you go to school, don't take shit from anybody. Don't take when we were kids, man, you got a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? I got a bologna. You want to trade? Right?
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
Anything. And so the first thing when my grandkids see me and I don't care because I love them and I don't want my children to bury them is to, I'll tell you that in a minute.
All right.
I don't want to bury them is to educate them. If we set up school, we got the schools. And a lot of people are going to get rubbed the wrong way, but we got the schools in our children's bedroom. But we don't have the schools teaching about what can take them out.
Yeah. Exactly.
If anybody wants me to expound on it, I won't. You know what I'm talking about. So you can be a cat or dog, a mouse, or anything that you desire to be, and that's accepted, but they won't talk about what's killing our children. And if I'm the only one, and me and Paula, and there's a couple of other people out there, that we're the only ones that can talk about it, you know what? One life. That's all I care about. One life. So if we can save one life, that's what's important to us. And so the second part is, so we have the 3 pillars of our foundation. It's sports and education and awareness, right? So we're working on an education platform. We're working on educating awareness. That's where, and yes, I did see Jelly Roll. I'll talk about that if you want me to. Jelly Roll is bringing it to national attention, but he said it was a abuse issue. And it's not just an abuse, not a drug user issue.
Exactly.
Issue. And his numbers were incorrect. There's actually 300 people a day dying from this, not 190. But the fact that he talked about it and he has celebrity behind it and he's doing something is still appreciated, but a little bit off.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you're giving a message, we always want it correct, right? But could you imagine now that he's listening and learning, and now he gets corrected? Now he's really going to be at it and say, look, I got to do this a little bit more. I need to do it a little bit more often, and I need to be a student of what's going on during this crisis. I just wanted to say that.
No, man, I know I've been talking a while, so I don't know if anybody has any questions, but I saw Brandon said, well, how would you attack it? Well, the first thing we're trying to do, Brandon, is we had a event at UMass Dartmouth a couple of weeks ago. And at that event, it was called Fake and Fatal. And basically, we had different people from around the U.S. One was a former White House chief of staff and the drug czar under the Trump administration. The other one was the temporary director of the DEA. And they both work in D.C. still. They're both attorneys, and they do a lot of speaking. We work with another group, Jim Raw, Families Against Fentanyl. We had David DiGregorio, who's about making this and classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. And he has the statistics and the information to support that. And he's allowing us to take his presentation to share it with people. And he's actually working on a presentation for us so we can share it with young people. So it'll have, it'll be age appropriate. But at the end of the day, we have to reclass this. That's the first thing. And right now it's not even classed correctly as a substance. It's I believe it's a class 2, and we need to get it reclassed. And then the other thing we need to do is to get it as a weapon of mass destruction. And here's why. There's evidence of airborne. You can explode this, right? You can take fentanyl and it creates a sticky substance that will stick on your skin and then absorb into your skin. You can make it float on. They did this guy, David DiGregorio, he was the head of the New England hazmat team and former military. He was in the military for 30 plus years and he's seen it all. And he was tasked to perform a simulation at Gillette Stadium back in 2017 when he was still working for FEMA. And in that simulation, he took the entrance of Gillette Stadium, where everybody would congregate to get into the stadium, and had a drone attack, a fake drone attack. Obviously, it's simulated, that would start like maybe a half a mile away from the stadium and then just drop the powder from the air, from the drone. And in that area where there's about 8,000 to 10,000 people getting into the stadium. And the result of that was about a 75, I think he said 75% fatality rate.
Damn.
That's dropping it from the air. And that was 2017, before they realized that they could aerosolize this. So you can make it into an aerosol, right? There was an event over in Russia a few years ago where there was hostages, and this hostage situation. So the Russian SWAT team tried to put fentanyl through a vent because they know that, it'll put you to sleep. But if you don't measure it right, and this was medicinal grade fentanyl, and what happened was they didn't have the correct information, and half the people that were hostages, everybody, half of them died from being poisoned with this shit. So it kind of backfired on them. And I believe serving fentanyl should be the same charge as terrorism. Or yes. And here's the problem, Brandon, with that, is that we are seeing, based on the groups that we're working with, my wife and I, that it's starting to gain traction in this administration, finally, as far as classifying it as a weapon of mass destruction. But that would put the onus on Mexico, because Mexico would be considered a terrorist cell because it's coming up through Mexico from the cartels. So you got China feeding the ingredients to Mexico. Mexico, the cartels are even working with the Chinese cartel. I can't remember the name of Shanghai or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're teaching them how to make fentanyl, right? And I know this for a fact because the guy that I was sitting next to was the drug czar and also a liaison with China. So when we had our panel discussion, we had gone out to eat the night before, so I met these guys, and he's talking about it. He goes, I said, so what would be the purpose of China? One, they just lifted a restriction on children, right? So, at one point, you could only have one kid. So they just lifted that restriction because, come to find out, they were killing all the girls. So the boys get inheritance and create that, hierarchy or, I'm trying to think of when you have your relationship. So with me, I have people to carry on my legacy. So the girls can't carry the legacy, the boys can. And so at one point, they were kind of offing the girls. Now they find out there's so many boys and not enough girls, so they lifted the restriction. But the other part of this, why would they feed this drug into the U.S. through the cartel? Because if they can wipe us out, they're increasing their population while decreasing ours.
Yeah.
And so that's a power move. And I asked this guy who worked as the drug czar if that was the case. And he goes, absolutely. So it's not just these pushers and stuff out the street. I don't know what people think they're doing, but medicinal fentanyl in a hospital environment is used correctly, right? This is not medicinal grade fentanyl. This is fentanyl that's synthetic. It's being created by God knows who. They don't, even though I really don't believe too much in pharmaceutical companies, but at least they're measuring things out and figuring out what the right dose is. But if you're getting it from the street, there is no right dose.
No.
So that's the overdose where it needs to be eliminated. So that's the third tier that we're trying to do. We're trying to get the narrative changed. The narrative has been overdose. Oh, this person overdosed. They just had the guy, Rick Harrison from Pawn Stars. His son died from fentanyl.
I've seen that.
Overdose, right? So there's all these people. Now it's hitting everybody, right? It's not just hitting the person here in New Bedford or somebody in, Dartmouth. It's hitting all the big people now. So more people are starting to take notice of it. They're losing their loved ones. And know that this stuff is in heroin. They're putting it into coke. They're cutting it with this because it's highly addictive. And if I can keep getting the repeat customers, then I got you. And they don't care about life. Somebody said, well, why would they do that? They're killing the customers. Well, when you have the internet available to you, you don't give a shit about who you kill. No. And you don't see that person.
Because the numbers are of people dying out throughout a week is thousands, right? But they're making profit off of millions. So the numbers are in their favor constantly.
Oh my God.
They're gonna
how much you make kilo. The kilo of coke and a kilo of fentanyl. You can make a kilo of coke. I think the guy D. Gregorio did a slide on it. I don't have, so I'm just kind of pulling it from my memory. But it certainly wasn't as much money you can make from cutting a kilo of fentanyl, which on a kilo of fentanyl, you can get 1.2. This I remember, 1.2 to $1.8 million return on that investment. Yeah. So if you bought a kilo, say the street value was, 10 grand or 20 grand, whatever it is, you're exponentializing your your return on investment.
True.
And why would I want to get rid of that if I can keep selling to people? And if I don't kill them, great. If I do, nobody's going to find me anyway because they don't know who we got it from. And that's the other problem. So we know that Andrew, who he got his weed from, right? We know who it was because we have his phone. And detectives down in Maryland botched this whole case. My wife wanted to go down and shoot up everybody. And I'm like, the only way that we can get back at anybody is to use this organization to build a power base, right? And the power base would be to help us get some sort of justice. And so as we become more formidable and have partnered with all these different organizations, we're starting to get noticed. And then we're also connecting with legislators and things. And look, we're nonprofit, so we can't choose Republican or Democrat. We don't care. But there are people that are in certain positions of power that are willing to open things up for us. And so that's really the only way you can get back. You're not going to do anything to bring them back. And if she went down there all emotional, they would just go, yeah, it's another emotional woman, no, whatever. And they were very dismissive of us to begin with, because they were like, well, you know, we got all kinds of people dying down here from fentanyl. It's a pandemic in Maryland, too. It's a pandemic, especially in that area, Annapolis and Baltimore and all that area. People are dropping left and right, man. And so what happens? You have law enforcement, you know, you were a cop. They can't go and investigate every single thing. So what do? They lump it all together, right? They say it's an overdose. And then you got a 60-year-old fuck like me who sits there and goes, well, they had it coming to him. This is my old way of thinking. And I want people to understand. My old way of thinking was, oh, they're a drug addict. And I know I have addicts in my family, right? And I was very dismissive and condescending and looking down my nose and all the bullshit, right? So not only did this open my eyes of something I would never touch, but because Paula's done so much with the outreach and getting to people that we've connected with, you know, institutions where people can get for addiction. And I've seen people, and my whole outlook is different. But at the point, 6-year-old Phil would go, yeah, whatever. The new Phil, who pivoted, goes, I was dismissive of life, because every life matters. Every life counts. And those people in our walk that Paula and I have encountered that have lost their children, some were addicts. And in a way, probably Andrew was too, because he loved to smoke weed, couldn't stop smoking it. So maybe there's part of that you're addicted to as well. So I had to relearn everything and understand that life is life. And so that's not our primary purpose. Achieve Greatness, its primary purpose is basketball, education awareness, and getting legislation change. However, we branched and picked up people along the way that if somebody came to us and said, hey, man, I have a problem, well, we have a connection for you. We have somebody we can steer you to. And even mental health, people don't even talk about that, right? Why do we have a society that everybody has to either drink themselves into a stupor or they have to mask whatever they're going through with drugs, right? So we're all going through shit. All of us have a story. I'll give you a story. Today, this past Friday, Jax, the cat that connects us to Andrew, has been sick. So he got admitted into the hospital on Friday. So I can't even tell you how much that costs, right? So he gets out. He's ready to get discharged today. Well, he's very disoriented. He can't stand up. It's like they think he might have had a stroke or some sort of issue, and he's going around, he's crapping everybody. And it's like, so I can tell you that Paula is going through shit, man, because this is the connection. So, and I was told her, I said, look, I know this is hard, and I'm not saying to do anything with Jax, but what I'm saying is we have to think things through. If I was in the hospital and I'm going through shit, would you just pull me out? Because I didn't want to pull Jax out. Paula wanted to get him out so he could be home and this, that, and the other. But I think he needs some more studying done, neurological, because when he tries to stand up, he falls back. And I know it's killing her, right? And when Frankie came home, he saw it and he was pissed because he's like, I don't know what you guys are doing. So we're still going through shit. We are going through shit. And all day, this has been going on. And just before you called, I was in the carpet down here in the basement. And I'm like, I said, Paula, you have to just take a deep breath and you have to navigate. And that's one thing that when you lose somebody, what people don't understand is that all that's fallen on me. Paula hasn't worked. Paula has not worked for quite some time. Her whole goal is achieve greatness. She will tell you to your face, and you've heard her tell you that if it wasn't for this, she'd be dead. Yeah. So me, as a protector, I go, I can't let that happen, right? I can't fix Paula. That's never going to happen. I couldn't fix anybody anyway. I can't even fix myself. So I had to take everything that I was going through, put it to the side, because I have to pick up pieces of Paula, right? And then I have to pick up pieces of Phil because part of me is lost too. And I had to still continue to work. I had to still continue to pay the bills. And now I have another company that I'm trying to get going because this is what's keeping her going. And I don't think people understand that. I don't think my kids understand. I don't think anybody understands. They say they understand it, but you ain't living it. Because just think if it was your wife or anybody on here, your wife, your significant other, your whoever that you care about, and they're going through shit, you either make a choice to walk away or you fight. And you know I'm a fighter. But man, it is tough because my mental shit gets tested. And you know what I don't drink. I don't do any drugs. I just deal with the shit. But sometimes, man, I just feel like I just need a good fucking sleep and just I need to get away from all this. And so I can't get away.
No, and it's hard, and you're experiencing it. It's something that you're going through. It's not a theory without practice. You know, you're definitely going through it. And, you know, and some of the people in the comment section, you know, that are watching us, they're going through something too, because they're giving these questions. They may be going through it where it's a curiosity or whether it's something they're seeing within the community, within their families. And I'm just glad that we're here because talking about this, because someone else may lead to another conversation, you know, and reach out to you or I and say, hey, I want to talk about this some more. I want to actually talk about, you know, the things that Phil had talked about through, you know, through the crisis that's going on in his family. My family's going through the same thing. And so, but first and foremost, this is great. This is what I expected in this conversation. So thank you, Phil.
No, it's my pleasure, man. And I have no problem sharing, talking to people. It is there's no book on this. There's no right or wrong way. You have to literally live day to day, situation by situation. And you can either give up and just go, I'm done. Or if you care and love the person that you're with, then you're not going to let them go through this by themselves, even if it kills you both.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. It's, the, you know, situation you have with the cat is sentimental, means a lot. But it also, as of today, you know, it's become a burden. And so I want you guys to make it through that, you know, thinking about, you know, a sick cat and its attachment to Andrew could be stressful just in itself. Elizabeth says, great conversation. Thank you for sharing. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you too.
It's some wonderful comments, Phil. You know, if you didn't see all of them later on, if you can check them out. I'm also going to put this recording on Spotify just as soon as we're done. So, you know, it could be something that you can do on your drive to work or somewhere, you know. It will be on Spotify sometime this evening. So,
well, I want to close. I want to say a couple of things before we close. The first thing is, Paul Gomes, thank you, bro. And I have your number. Yes.
Nice. That's
Appreciate
wonderful,
you, brother. And I just want to say, you have to, people who are listening, pass this along. Do not let it just sit here. This is real, right? And Paula and I see it. Paula is partnering with the Department of Health. She gets statistics all the time locally, and we just see all the death that's occurring from this. So talk to your friends, talk to your families. I talk to everybody at work, man. I tell people, if you got kids, talk to your children. Oh, my kids don't do it. You never know what they're going to do. Teach them how to party responsibly, because you can go to a college, you can go to a house party. You don't know what people have there. So please, if nothing else, just talk to your children, your grandchildren, your kid, whoever. Anybody you care about, just let them know that there are dangers out there, and we need to protect ourselves. And then lastly, I would urge everybody to go on our website, grab that information. There's all types of information there. It's educational information, but also feel free to donate, because in order for us to keep doing this, and we need to help. And at one point, I used to be ashamed to ask for anything, but all this is going for a good cause. None of us take a salary. Paul is doing this 24/7, doesn't make a dime. We got schools calling us up to do speaking engagements. So all those things, everything that we do, that money gets funneled to achieve greatness and into our community. We have partnerships with the YMCA, Boys and Club, and hopefully pay for scholarships for kids in need. We have partnered with the DJ Henry Dream Fund. So if you go on our site and you have kids that they don't sponsor AAU basketball, but they sponsor a lot of different sporting events, you can go in there and click on a link on our page, and it'll actually take you to their page. And if you're a coach, you're a parent, you can actually go through and apply for some financial assistance to take the kids through to basketball camps, dance camps, it's everything they sponsor. So they'll do the financial analysis for you and make the determination. Usually they'll get back to you in a week or two. And then at the end of everything, when you fill out the application, just tell them Achieve Greatness sent you. And they're a great organization. Read their story, their child. They lost their child back in 2010 to, unfortunately, it was police violence. And it was not every cop's bad, obviously, right? But in this situation, it was horrific. And they started a nonprofit, and they are helping out tons of kids. They've helped out over 8,000 kids in Massachusetts, and they actually wanted to partner with us so we could send kids to them to be able to play sports or attend a camp. And then finally, just grab a ticket for a dinner. We're going to have a great venue. We got Joaquin Santos and his band are going to be there. DJ Fresco, a lot of people know him in the area. A friend of mine who was a professional magician when we went to college. He's done shows in Vegas and everywhere. He's coming in. Tickets are $100, includes your food, your entertainment, and we also have a live auction, a silent auction. So we'll be doing a lot of sports memorabilia, and all that goes right back into Achieve Greatness and enables us to go hours away to teach kids and to speak at schools and different events. So we really believe in this, and we're hoping that people will support us. So thank you, Charlie. Thank you for having me on, and look forward to being on again very soon.
This is, I don't care if you come on every week, you know that, and that's why we have our weekly show on Wednesday to basically, if it's time to vent or it's time to get a message out, we got to do it, and we're always an open invitation. Actually, you don't need it, just, how the show goes. You can just send me a comment. Charlie, link me into this podcast and I'll send you an invite and you're on. So, but I will make it happen. If Phil Young wants to come on any show that I have, you're definitely on there no matter what.
Thank you. Appreciate you. And I love you.
I love you too, man. Dearly, sincerely, I love you. And I'm very proud of all the listeners. Those comments are truly meaningful. It just shows that, you know, Phil's not just here talking. There's people listening. They're listening. They're learning, and I appreciate it. Derek Demers, you got kids in college. Please talk to them. Have a conversation, just like Phil said he had a conversation with his children, which we all should, grandchildren. We should all have those conversations because it just takes a few minutes, you know. We sometimes underestimate the children, the kids. They're having conversations every day, and their intellect is a little bit smarter than we think sometimes. So have those conversations with them. And you know what? They even may teach you something, right? They may teach you something that you didn't know.
Very true.
Yeah. So as you see on the screen, achievegreatness88.org. Please check it out. Bring some traffic to that. Share it on all your social media. Don't forget the dinner. I'll be there. Phil will be there. Paula will be there. Many special people will be there. And the funniest thing is that day I'll be in 2 rooms in that showroom. I'll be in one, and I'll be going back and forth, you know, doing 2 things at once. But that's all fine with me, you know. That's all fine.
Amen.
The day is March 9th.
Yes, sir.
Century House right down the street in Cushing, Mass. All right, Phil, we can keep in touch. You need me at any point, anytime. I will definitely, we're already on YouTube, we're on Facebook, and I will add this conversation to Spotify, both video and audio. So if you're in the car, you can listen, just click on Spotify, go to the Really Charlie Podcast, and you will listen to Phil's conversation just in case you miss something. All right. Love you, brother. God bless you.
Love you too. And thank you everyone for listening and for your comments. Greatly appreciate it.
All right. Now I'm going to end this podcast with my favorite song by Peter Lionel Walker. Oh, one more comment here. Oh, Phil and Paula had no idea. Let's see. Oh, Phil and Paula had no idea. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm heartbroken.
Oh my gosh. I remember Becky. She used to, she and Andrew were friends years ago.
Wow.
She used to always come over our house. So yeah, Becky, it's tough, but you hang in there. Make sure you hug that little one even tighter, man.
Exactly. Wow. So, all right. Like I said, I'm going to end this podcast with my favorite song from Peter Lionel Walker. And Phil, God bless you. Thank you. Wait, I can't end it. I don't want to miss a comment. Becky says she loves you, man.
Love you too.
Yeah. All right. So, God bless you. And Phil, take care. I'm just going to go ahead and do a few things, but I will call you within the next couple of days. I have a couple of questions for you, but nothing big, nothing urgent. All right.
All right, man. You take care. Thank you again.
You take care also.
Peace.
All right, y'all. My friend Phil Young doing what I thought he can do. Just keep you captivated and listening and learning. All right, y'all. Until next Tuesday, I will be on the Really Charlie Podcast on WNB1 Radio, as I am every week. And feel free to join me. We will have Lee Rocha, Cooking Under Pressure. That will be next week. So join us. It's going to be a good show with all his cooking, and he has some talent, you know, and singing and everything. So join me next Tuesday here on Facebook Live, WNB1.com, and WNB1 Radio, also on YouTube. All right, y'all. Have a good night. God bless.
It's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bump into your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bump into your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass.